5. The executive committee meets once a month for the purpose of being apprised by each committee chair of actions and/or discussions that have taken place at the committee level, which leads to our main purpose, which is to form and finalize the agenda for the full board meeting. The executive committee seldom takes action, however, on rare occasions and in emergency situations will do so. This evening, we have no such actions. Any items that may have been previously listed on the executive committee agenda have been referred back to the Public Safety Quality of Life Committee and will not be addressed by the executive committee this evening. If there are any questions or comments, please contact the board office. Members of the public are provided the opportunity to attend the meeting in person or, in the case of the pandemic, to attend during virtual meetings. Anyone who is attending the meeting as a non-member may sign in as an attendee. There will be a public session at the beginning of this meeting where anyone who is interested in speaking will have 2 minutes. Please use the raised hand feature to be called on. We will start the meeting with the public session, followed by the committee moving into business session, where only members of the committee will be recognized during discussion. I will then introduce our new district manager, yay, at that time, and we'll be asking the committee members to introduce themselves to Marissa, give a little background on the committee they're affiliated with and what they do. For everyone who is tuned in, please keep in mind that this group will not be deliberating or voting on any issues this evening. Again, the main purpose of the executive committee meeting is to form and finalize the agenda for Thursday night's full board meeting. However, all members of the public are encouraged to sign up for and participate in the public session of the full board meeting. That's on Thursday, and if you wish to speak on issues that are before the board for action or any other matters that may be of common interest to the board, please sign up to do so. You'll be given 2 minutes. I will now open the public session. If anyone is interested in saying anything, please raise your hand, let us know. Okay, I see that we have, I believe, 3 people in attendance and no one, I think they're just attending. So we will move on to the business session of the board, which is what we are in right now, of the board, of the executive committee. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our new district manager, Marissa Mock. Welcome aboard. We are thrilled beyond belief. We are so happy that you're starting. We'd like you to say a few words, and then I'd like everyone to give you an idea of what each of us is all about. Welcome, Marissa. You're on mute. You have to unmute.
Good, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, I'm thrilled to be here. My first Community Board 5 meeting. I've actually attended some of your committee meetings. So this isn't my first, but first as a panelist. It's odd starting a job remotely, I have to say. I wish I could be in a room with you all and we would have much more organic conversations, but you know, I'm doing my best with this. My brain is quite full, but lots of conversations we've had today. Had a great conversation with Luke today and just got off the phone with Wally. And I hope once I get my email set up, which should be tomorrow, to reach out to all of you and you know, see if we can set up a time to talk one-on-one by phone over the next week or so, just to get to know you a little better and see how you know, what I can do to be helpful to you as chairs, and you know, just anything you want to let me know about. So I'm here to support your work, and hope to get to know all of you well over the next few months.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's start with our officers and then move to our chairs, starting with Nick. You have a pretty good idea of what Nick does, but Nick is our first vice chair and the chair of one of our committees. Nick.
Welcome, Marisa. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to see you too.
So in addition to being on the search committee that did such a wonderful job finding you, I am first vice chair of the board under Vicky, and I'm chair of the Committee on Public Safety and Quality of Life, which is our liquor license committee. We also review applications for physical culture establishments, which are spas and gyms and things like that.
Okay.
Craig Slutskin is the
I know you're a
vice chair.
very busy committee.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay, next would be our second vice chair, which is Clayton.
Hi, Marisa, welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you and to see you again.
Nice to see you, thanks.
I am the second vice chair and chair of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee. I've been on the board since 2009. And prior to being chair of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee, I was a long-standing proud member of PSQL. So I kind of, got my chops under Nick's leadership on that committee. PSQL is often kind of I think a good launching pad for a lot of new board members to learn the ropes quickly. As chair of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee, we oversee everything that occurs in most public spaces aside from streets. So the streets is really left to the Transportation Committee, but sidewalks. So in addition to the things that impact our parks, we also hear newsstand applications, sidewalk cafe applications. The sidewalk cafe applications in particular are done in concert with PSQL if they're seeking to serve liquor outside, of course. And of course, we look at all of our park spaces as well as the pedestrian plaza spaces managed by all of our various bids in our district, and the ways that those jurisdictions can overlap, can work in concert, can conflict, etc. And then also POPs to a certain degree, although that is more of a land use issue really, since city planning is the kind of agency in question there, but we still address some of the issues that arise there as well. And then I'm also a member of the Land Use Committee.
Wow.
Okay, next will be our secretary, Craig Slutskin, and vice chair of various areas.
Hi, Marisa. It's good to see you again, and welcome aboard. I was on the search committee as well, so it was nice to meet you then. I've been on the board since I think it's 2013. I'm the secretary of the board. I'm also the vice chair of two committees, Parks and Public Spaces under Clayton and Public Safety, Quality of Life under Nick. As secretary, along with Julie, who you'll meet in a moment, I handle the minutes that I know everybody on this call reads word for word every single time. And I also am in charge of attendance. So making sure that people are attending, and if they're not, making sure that they get a nice little letter asking them why they're not attending, basically. So we'll certainly be working together on that and a number of other administrative items.
Terrific.
Okay, next will be our assistant secretary, Julie.
Hi, Marisa. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
As Craig said, I help him every month with the minutes. I'm also vice chair of BEX, and I help Renee with some of the work we're doing there.
Okay. And we have our treasurer, Aaron.
Hi, Marisa. Sorry, dinner time for my dog here, so he's going.
My dog just came in, actually. He's right here. I thought I had the door shut.
Welcome. I've been on Community Board 5 for going to be on 5 years in the winter. I've been on the exec committee this past year as treasurer, and I work with this great group, you have here. I'm on the Parks Committee as well as the Land Use and Zoning, which is a very intense but fun committee. And I, when we're in normal mode, I was working in Rockler Center in Midtown, but I'm also, like yourself, an Upper West Sider. So I technically reside in CB7, but work in CB5.
Oh,
so
okay.
Looking forward to talk to be on the committee.
Yeah.
Okay, next, Layla.
Hi, Marisa. So nice to meet you and so excited to have you on board. I am the chair of the Land Use, Housing and Zoning Committee of CB5. This committee is really, very straightforward. We deal with the, hardcore land use stuff, and boy, are we busy. We work closely with the Transportation and Environment Committee because, of course, there's great overlap in, between infrastructure and land use. Work also closely with the Parks Committee because we also have some overlap, as well as BEX Committee, the Budget Committee. I am also the chair of the Landmarks Committee, which is also, very straightforward in what we do and what we deal with, reviewing applications that have been submitted to the Landmarks Preservation Commission for certificate of appropriateness. We are also very busy because we are home to so many significant landmarks of our great city. Okay. I have a passion and love for New York City landmarks. I tend to get a little emotional. And I have a huge craving for all things land use. I love reading a good EIS, gets me really excited. I have been on the board since 2004. I have chaired those two committees, as well as the Consent and Variance Committee, which no longer exists because it's been split in, and sort of like spread into various committees, but it was a committee that dealt with anything that had to do with a consent or a variance, which would be, a sidewalk cafe, street fairs, street renamings, and those kind of stuff. And very much, passionate about the work that we do, and very much looking forward to working with you, and really excited to have you on board.
Thank you. Thank you. I with you as well.
Next would be EJ, Chair of Transportation and Environment.
Hi, Marisa. Welcome. EJ Kalifarsky, Chair of Transportation and Environment. As has been mentioned, our purview falls very frequently to the streets within the city, as well as transit and all manner of transportation. So we end up dealing with bus stop locations, street closures, street reconfigurations. For example, there's been a lot of discussion over the past several months around issues such as the 14th Street busway and the Fifth Avenue and the proposed Fifth Avenue busway. And then, of course, we've got Penn Station and Grand Central Terminal in the district. So any transportation or transit access issues related to those, or any subway entrances also fall under our purview. So we overlap a lot with other committees, such as Layla's Land Use Committee. We deal with different agencies, but very primarily the city's Department of Transportation, and then also to an extent the Port Authority.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last committee chair is Renee for BEX.
Hi, Marisa. I'm so glad to meet you. Hello.
You too. Hi.
Hi. So I'm the chair of Budget, Education, and City Services, and primarily our thrust had been about budget, but as you can imagine, we've started to expand into a lot of other things, particularly since the pandemic. We look at things like quality and sanitation and small business initiatives. We're looking at some of the homeless housing situations, things such as safe injection sites, public restrooms, and election issues. So Bex is sort of really exciting. I think it was sleepy for a while, and it's been really exciting as of late.
Thanks to you, Renee. Okay, Marisa, do you have any questions right now? I know you'll be contacting everyone individually, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just to say that it's not a question, but just, you know, I have been a community board member and I have been a chair of a committee. And so, you know, I'm familiar with your joy and your pain. And so, you know, I really just want you to think of me as a resource, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with each of you individually and getting into the nitty-gritty of what's going on and upcoming agenda items and anything that I can be helpful with just in thinking through upcoming agenda items as well. So you know, I don't want to get into it here, I think, but I'm really looking forward to sort of getting into the details with each of you. All your committees sound absolutely fascinating to me, and I'm looking forward to learning much more about the, you know, the board itself, the district itself, and the issues that you all are dealing with.
Well, as you can see, your joy is tenfold on our side. Everyone is thrilled to have you on board. I know you met Luke this morning, and you'll be meeting Kim tomorrow?
Tomorrow, hopefully, right. And you know, hopefully, like just the silly things of having an email and things like that to make communication easier will all get worked out. And then I'll be reaching out to everybody with all my contact information and that sort of thing. And just please feel free. I'm at your disposal, so please feel free to reach out to me.
Nick just reminded me, and I forgot, we do have one of our vice chairs who is now a regular member, Sam Levy. So sorry, Sam, I didn't mean to do that. That's my fault.
Right.
Please,
I thought it was a reprieve, actually.
You're a very important member of this committee.
It's very kind. Hi, Marisa, very nice to meet you.
Hi.
I am the vice chair of the Transportation Environment Committee under EJ. I also sit on the Landmarks Committee. I am the board's representative to the Times Square Alliance, one of the bids in CB5.
Oh, great.
And live and work in CB5 and have been a member of the board since 2015. And that's it. Welcome aboard. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much.
You know, Marisa, what we discovered, or what I was thinking about a few months ago, is that most of our vice chairs, in fact, I think all of our vice chairs, are by way of being an officer, are on the exec, which is why we thought it was really important to add Sam, and especially because he's such a robust and active member of T&E, very important partner for EJ. And so he has now been almost a year, Sam, or somewhere around there. So we've got all our chairs and our vice chairs. It's just that they overlap,
right,
like Julie. So anyway, that's the crew, and we will be, you know, so looking forward to starting, I guess tomorrow. Will you be in the office tomorrow?
Well, I'm still sort of working out. I think it's going to be best for me to try to set up my email and stuff from home. So hopefully I can do that in the morning. And if I can do that in the morning, I'll be in the office in the afternoon. But otherwise I'll be there late Thursday and Friday. Today's Tuesday, right? So yeah. Thursday and Friday.
Must be Belgium. Anyway, okay, right. Again, welcome. And we will now move into our, you know, looking at our business session, looking at the issues that came before each committee. I did not remember to print out my agenda, but we'll just go through the committees in any order. So let's start with, Layla, do you want to start with which one?
Maybe I can start with the landmarks.
Okay.
Okay, so it was an exciting committee meeting. We had one item on the agenda. The address is 175 Fifth Avenue. If you don't know what this address is, it is the Flatiron Building. So the applicant is proposing a number of modifications, very minor. Overall, it's very restorative in nature. Just to give you the gist of it, they are redoing the storefronts and the entrances in a way that is going to be much more sympathetic to the building. The existing entrances to the building, both on Fifth Avenue and on Broadway, were actually built in the late 60s and really done very poorly, unfortunately. It's certainly been an eyesore for me for all these years that I've walked by. So they're going to make major improvements. They're going to remove this revolving door system, which is really not contextual for the historic building, installing a entrance and articulation that is going to be much better. They're going to use the original materials. So that's going to be an improvement. They are also proposing a storefront master plan. They want to have some flexibility on how those storefronts can operate. The committee felt that it was also an improvement. They are going to remove 600 individual AC units that currently sit on the windows of the building. Huge, huge improvement. And they are going to install a HVAC system on the roof. They're doing some reorganization of the mechanicals on the roof, and they are extending the existing penthouse level by 1 foot. But overall, we felt that, although this increased penthouse is going to be very minimally visible, we're not denying the visibility, but really it's going to be like a sliver of visibility exceeding what already exists. But we felt that it was really a good proposal. All the materials that they're proposing to use are historic, of great quality. The level of craftsmanship that is going to go into this this alteration is going to be really of high quality. So we approved the proposal, unanimous vote.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions? Are there any comments? Okay, and you only had one, right, Layla?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead with land use? I mean,
yeah. Sure, unless, maybe another committee can give their report, and then I'm happy to
sure.
jump back in again.
Okay, let's go to parks.
Sure. We actually had no action items on the agenda this month, so I have an update, but nothing that'll be on the full board agenda.
Okay.
It was a great meeting. We heard from the Flatiron bid, from the Madison Square Park Conservancy, and from the Bryant Park Corporation, and each of them had updates about foreseeing the cold weather and plans and updates on, budget struggles and programming changes, obviously. And in the case of Bryant Park Corporation, a very thoughtful consideration of how they are modifying their plans for Winter Village and their holiday market this year. It is proceeding with about 30% of the number of vendor booths. That is both because obviously they need to keep space and make sure that it can be socially distant, but also because park usage is down so much that they don't anticipate the same crowds, which is not very surprising. So it was a sobering, but also very optimistic update from these three entities and important entities in our district about how these vital spaces are still being so lovingly cared for. And with the Madison Square Park Conservancy has done an incredible job with communicating with their users exactly what's going on with the programming changes, with the staff. I mean, they've just been extremely communicative and upfront about the struggles with COVID that the staff have had. And they've done incredible work in making sure that people can be working there safely. and only the people who are really essential and staggered shifts, et cetera. So it was really great to hear from everyone. And the only other thing I have to report is just that last month we had voted to send our support for the proposed position that MAS and New Yorkers for Parks have put forth for the position of the Director of Public Realm in the city administration as part of a mayoral office. And other chairs can speak to this if you'd like to, but we consulted with Vicky and kind of came up with an idea to have this be as broad based as possible in terms of support from the board, and that the best way to do that would be for every relevant committee to submit to Renee, as Beck's committee chair, our kind of bullet points for the ways in which we believe that position would be helpful for the various jurisdictional priorities that our committees oversee. And that then as Beck's moves forward with their budget request cycle next month, our advocacy and support for that position might be part of the Beck's agenda. So I just wanted to give an update on that, since that was an action item we had last month that is kind of still in progress. And that's all we had this month.
A really important one, for sure. You want to take it from there, Renee, since we're mentioning Beck's?
Will do. We had 2 resolutions. Well, just following up on Clayton, absolutely, we're taking on board all of those points from the other committees, so that we can not only include it as a budget request, but also weave that into our district statement. So please give me all of your budget requests and all of the things that you think are needed by the district, so that we can include all of that as we move forward next month. But for this month, we had 2 resolutions. The first was in support of a package of bills that was passed by the City Council's General Welfare Committee. If you don't know who that is, that they have jurisdiction over the Administration for Children's Services, Department of Homeless Services, Department of Social Services, Human Resources Administration, and the other institutions charitable institutions that do business with the city. And so there were 5 bills. One is it requires any individual or families that receive rental assistance vouchers to make sure that they continue to receive the assistance so long as the household continues to meet any other eligibility requirements. And so this bill would also require that maximum rent toward rental assistance vouchers may be applied I'm getting this wrong, may be applied annually, increasing at the same rate as the fair market rent set by the United States Department of Housing Preservation and Development. So this would be set by subject to appropriation. So in other words, they want that rental vouchers to increase at the same rate as fair market rent set by the U.S. Department of Housing. Another bill is asking for certain data regarding rental assistance programs, including the outcomes of family homelessness and eviction prevention supplements and any future rental assistance programs created by New York City residents, that all of the data be reported and tracked so that you can see the efficacies and what's happening there, because that currently doesn't happen. Another bill that we supported, this is all a package of bills. This would require the provision of a written notice to applicants who are found potentially eligible for rental assistance programs administered by DSS. It would give people information about their protections under the New York City human rights law, related specifically to discrimination on the basis of a person's lawful source of income. And then a final bill would require DHS to provide services to domestic violence survivors in all of the DHS shelters. And so that would include also informing people that this service is available and then providing that service. And then finally, the final bill would prohibit real estate brokers, landlords, employees, agents from making any criminal history inquiries into a housing applicant's background or taking an adverse action against such applicant due to criminal history. Those package of bills were designed to sort of prevent the sort of mass evictions that are contemplated once the legislation on evictions is lifted. So it's to help people who are in shelters, it's to help people who are looking for housing, and it's to keep the vouchers in line, because right now the voucher amounts are not sort of in line with New York City rents. So that's the first one. The second one is the Save Our Storefront.
The question, Renee?
Yeah.
We talked about, we were questioning whether or not these were going to be dealt with as a package, not on our side, but you know, when they go. Did you get an answer? Is
yes,
the council
they are being dealt, according to Abigail, they are being dealt with as a package.
Okay.
So these are all a package of bills, and they're brought together by the Committee on General Welfare because they're looking forward to that time when the moratorium on evictions is lifted. People are going to start to look for apartments. People are going to be needing services. So they want to try and get these in place, looking forward to that. The second resolution that we heard is a state bill, and it's called Save Our Storefronts. And I'm going to preface this by saying it's maybe premature. This is a bill introduced by Senator Hallman. It's a solution to the issue of small businesses and nonprofits who are currently having difficulty making rent. So this bill, while it has a lot of specifics, it really is just there as a placeholder to set the framework for a plan, right? Because everybody's looking for a plan. It's better than having no plan. And it's premised on a balanced approach of shared sacrifice between the small businesses, the landlord, and the government. And the way it works is this. The people who are losing, the small businesses and the not-for-profits, rent is one of their biggest expenses. So what this bill proposes is, in order to keep them the business, their rent would be reduced to the lesser of 20% of their monthly income or 1/3 of their contractual rent. So their rent would go down by that amount. The landlord, in addition, would waive 20% of the monthly contractual rent. I'm going to do it in math because that's the way it was explained to us, right? So if the tenant signed a contractual agreement for $100, right? Rent is $100. The tenant would be responsible for $33 if, you know, that's 1/3 of his contractual rent. The landlord is going to waive an additional 20%, so that's $20, right? So that's $55. The additional $45 in the middle, $47 in the middle, that would be covered by a commercial rent relief fund that this bill would establish, up to $500 million, but it would be earmarked from any federal assistance that comes to the state. And we know that that may not happen, but if it does, they want to earmark this money to save small businesses and the nonprofits. So everyone's giving a little bit, everyone's going to get a little bit, and it's designed to stop this death spiral of the small businesses. I guess the linchpin is the state receiving that funding. If it doesn't happen, this bill really doesn't work. There's been a lot of coalition building. The senator had a lot of coalition building with many of the small businesses and the not-for-profits to get to this stage. So they're really on board with sort of splitting the baby with the landlord and not having it be all about, you know, waiving all rent. They really want this framework to work. Small businesses in this instance are defined as 25 or fewer employees. And you need to demonstrate that you've lost revenue due to the pandemic. The businesses don't have to do anything. It's the landlord that would have to apply for this once the business showed that they had lost money. It's hard to gauge how many businesses are going to benefit, but the estimate is up to 70,000 could end up closing without some form of assistance. There's recognition that the 500 million wouldn't take care of this need indefinitely, but they want to have a plan to set aside to try and save as many as possible until the economy is kickstarted. There's a possibility if the tenant made zero income, then his portion of it would be zero. There was some concern by the committee. They were concerned particularly by the fact that the coalitions that had been spoken to really didn't include a lot of the landlords, and the committee wanted to see that. They were also concerned by the definition of 25 or full-time or fewer full-time employees being the definition of small business, and asked whether that could be expanded. And the elected representative agreed that, because this is just a framework, he was going to take that back to Senator Hoylman. So that's where we are in that resolution. So it's a framework, and the committee was very much on board. It was 14 in favor, 1 dissent in approving this framework for going forward, recognizing it is just that, a framework, but at least a plan should we get federal funding to keep these small businesses afloat.
I know that a number of other chairs spoke about this at the borough board meeting, and they said they would be weighing in on this as well. I have not gotten word back from any of them. Have you?
There's one, and I'm going to lie to you if I'm going to say it's, no, I'm not going to tell you which one because I can't remember, but there's definitely one. And I think there are more that when I'd spoken to them are hearing this issue.
Yeah, it may have been board 1. They were very interested. It was either 1 or 3 that had a real interest, and they were concerned about the same concerns that the committee had. They were concerned as well. Layla, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Is there any similar bill with the city? Because it looks like, the relief from a state piece of legislation has its merits, especially if it funnels federal funding. But its broadness in being applied to the entire state rather than specifically to the city may get in the way. And I'm just wondering if in our language we could maybe say something so that we could maybe encourage some of our council members to craft such bill. I mean, I know that there is the Small Business Job Survival Act that has been pending and that has never been brought to a vote. And some consider that it is actually very unfortunate that it has not been brought to a vote by the city council. But I'm just wondering if if we should push for more local specific New York legislation to deal with this issue.
I mean, I think that's a great idea. I think that was brought up during our discussion, and one of the responses was that doing it at the state level is a way of getting monies that may not come, you know what I mean? If there's appropriations to the state of New York, we're getting those monies. And that's even a very big if, right? And so, yes, I agree with you 100%, Layla, but also there was the consideration that, the state level is much more likely potentially because the state doesn't have money to give to the city, right? The state is looking to the federal government for these monies. Like this doesn't work without those appropriations and that money coming from the feds. So the state doesn't have that money for the city. I don't know that the city has that money, but certainly I think it's a good point.
In terms of the funneling of funding, can federal money trickle like directly into the city coffers, or does it have to go from federal to state and then to city?
I don't want to make a broad statement because I'm going to say something that may be wrong in all instances. So I'm going to tell you that I don't know that answer. Absolutely.
I wonder if Joe Maffio knows. Remember, he did all that research. I bet he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can.
Yeah, maybe Marisa, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't, in terms of, and this may be just unique to New York, I don't believe the relationship that the city has with the state of New York allows that to happen. It has to go through the state. Now that may be different for other cities in other states, but just the particular relationship that New York City has with New York State is such that it has very, very little jurisdiction over its, ability to manage its funds.
Which is, again, as I said, that question was answered, but I don't know if in another situation or some other way it could be done, maybe.
Yeah, there would be nothing that would keep the city, except for finances, to keep the city from setting up its own program to do that, but not with the federal money that comes in.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you, Marisa. That's super helpful.
Anybody else have any questions on either of, Renee, you had two? Just
yeah,
those.
and we heard a third bill coming out of Senator Hoylman's office, and we did not take any action on it, but it's the Clear Path Forward bill. And I'll just tell you really quickly what that was meant, what it is meant to do. It was introduced to stop litigation across the state between landlords and tenants. And what it was going to do is sort of, by legislation, figure out whether the event which caused business disruption was foreseeable. In other words, for purposes of canceling leases and all of that. So we had a really robust discussion about that. As you know, we have a bunch of attorneys on our committee who felt that it really wasn't the place of our legislators to step into the shoes of a court. And so we heard about the bill, but we took no action.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on?
Very quickly, who introduced that bill, Renee?
Senator Hoylman.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else?
And then just a quick report. We had a very, very quick presentation on street harassment. It was truncated because the young lady had to leave the committee at 8 o'clock and she didn't realize it was going to go on so late. So we just circulated that amongst committee members.
That was the mayor's office, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on to public safety.
PSQL didn't have any agenda items this month. We are doing due diligence on a number of items. We were a little bit caught off guard when the SLA scheduled 3 500-foot hearings right after our committee was scheduled to meet. So those were the 3 items that we almost had to hear today. What happened with those 3 items? One, we had a satisfactory affidavit executed. The other, the applicant reviewed the problematic outdoor portion of the application. And then the third, postponed the 500-foot hearing until after the PSQL meeting so that we can hear them during the next cycle. So that's all for PSQL.
Okay.
Quick question. Can you actually give us the addresses of those 3 locations?
Yes. Maybe not. Yes.
Nick, if you want,
or at a later time. It's. I mean, I don't need.
Luke, do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, I just have it. So one is 1123 Broadway, and that's the one that we created the affidavit with. I think we got it in today. The other one is 16 to 18 East 30th Street, and that's the one that had kind of a controversial backyard space outside a hotel lobby bar, and they agreed to take away the outdoor space. And then the other one is 125 West 26th Street, and they agreed to postpone their hearing, and that's a hotel transfer license.
Just to follow up, 1133 Broadway.
Right, 1123 Broadway.
Oh, 1123. Okay. That's not the Paramount Hotel, right? Or the Paramount building?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, we can check offline.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick.
Sure.
Nick, can I ask a question? I have a question just about the current state of our communications with the SLA, and if you got anything substantial from them about how it is that those were scheduled, or more importantly, if they can be a little more attentive moving forward about that.
You know, I think they're catching up on what fell through the cracks during COVID. So usually we get more notice. Usually we're a little bit more communicative. I think they're playing catch up, which is why we got caught off guard with these three.
Nick, do you want to report?
I don't think so.
You don't need to.
I mean, I could talk about what's going on with outdoor dining, but there's nothing. Again, our district seems to be doing well. We monitor the complaints, we monitor the closures. There was one notable closure this month that took us by surprise because we didn't have any complaints against the location, but it just goes to show that the enforcement is working.
All right, do you think you'd want to bring that up? It sounds like good news for our district.
It's up to you. If you want the board to hear that, I'm happy to present it.
I think so. I've been hearing so many horror stories from other boards. It's good to hear something, is working pretty good with us.
Okay.
Renee, do you want to bring up anything other than your rezos on your reports? Do you want to report to the full board? What do you think?
I don't know. We're still in the process of, I'm sure the committee knows all of the issues that community members have been having with some of the hotels, particularly on the Upper West Side on West 55th Street, and also not so much anymore in the 30s, but certainly the Blakely and the Wellington. We've been working with the Borough President's Office to try and set a meeting with the providers and our electeds in order to get some movement. We haven't been able to do that ourselves, so we turned to the BPS office who's working with us on that. And that hasn't been scheduled yet. So there's not a lot to report except that we're on it.
Well, I think at the end of your rezos, it would be helpful that people hear that, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see. We're up to, want to go to land use now?
Yeah, sure. So for land use, we had one application and one presentation. The presentation was in the continuation of what Clayton described. The Municipal Art Society came to our committee this month to present on their advocacy to create a post of Director of the Public Realm. The committee felt very enthusiastic. They feel that it is very much in keeping with the advocacy that our committee and our board has been doing, especially with the very problematic situation with access to air and light, and our fight against super tall towers and the shadows that they are casting. So we felt that it was a very worthy advocacy, and we will submit some comments to the BEX committee so that the actual meat of the advocacy comes from asking for money so that the post can be created. But it feels that it would be if such posts were to exist, it would be a great strength for the work that our committee is doing, and especially for our district, because we certainly appreciate that right now it is very visible in CD5 that nobody is really thinking about the public realm. At times, it's even difficult to explain to people what the public realm is. So the committee felt very enthusiastic about the creation of such posts. So that was the presentation. Then to the application, it was an application, a very technical application that was filed by the Court Theater, which is part of the portfolio of the Schubert organization. And they are proposing to transfer air rights through a special permit that is specific to the theater subdistrict. So they were in front of us with two actions. The first one was the special permit, and the special permit allows for a Broadway theater to transfer their rights and get a bonus FAR in the case and instance that said theater is getting a major renovation, restoration, and improvement. So what the question that was in front of us was, the work that they are proposing to do, is this work deemed sufficient to grant such bonus FAR? The quality of the work and the scope of the work that they're proposing inside the theater as well as outside the theater is very substantial. They are going to create better accessibility, more pathways, better functionality for the backstage area, better ventilation, more energy efficiency. It is really a big deal. And it's a big deal also because the space is very, very constrained. It's one of those, really small theaters that is hard to work with. They are also proposing, and the land use committee was very excited about that. They're proposing to build a new annex to the Court Theater, which is something that is very, very unlikely that any existing Broadway theater would be adjacent to a vacant lot that can be developed for the purpose of serving the theater. So we felt that those improvements were very significant and rose to the level of justifying a bonus FAR. Now this bonus FAR, this bonus density, is not going to be used on the lot of the Court Theater because of course it's a landmark and it cannot be extended. So these air rights are actually being sold to the neighboring lots. So I'm gonna spare you really, the whole technical conversation that we had, but basically it boiled down to the lot that is going to use these air rights is actually a split lot, meaning that the density on one side of the split is not the same as the density that is permitted on the other side of the split. And therefore, the applicant proposed a zoning text amendment, meaning that they want to change the zoning text itself, like the zoning resolution of the City of New York, in order to allow for the use of this higher density on the side of the split where it is currently not allowed. We had a great deal of discussion on, the technicality. Is it really what they represent is really what they are going to do? In the end, we felt that we found justification for allowing this higher density to be used on the other side of the split because of the nature of the business, theater, cultural institution, and also because of the great economic difficulty that the theater industry is going through because of COVID. So we felt that those were enough reasons to justify supporting the zoning text amendment. We also took into account that the zoning text amendment only applies to the Court Theater, and no other site within the theater subdistrict is in the same situation. Therefore, we're not saying that it's going to be a broad application of this new language. And because it is so restrictive and because of those reasons, we felt that we could support the zoning text amendment. The resolution notes that we're not setting a precedent. We still believe that split lots should really abide by the rules of the split lot rule, and that in no way it should be used by anyone as an argument for, applying for more zoning text amendments, relaxing the split lot rule. We also decided that we want the language of the zoning text amendment says that the bonus has to be granted for interior work. And we believe that this interior definition is important. So we are making the recommendation that we support the zoning text amendment, provided that the language is changed and that the word interior still stays, and with all the language that I just described. It was a long meeting. Super grateful to the committee for the great work and great attention that they paid to this really technical application. So overall, it is an approval with conditions, and it was unanimous vote.
Great. It was an excellent meeting. I wish I could mandate that everyone watch that. It was superb.
I know we have fun with this technical stuff that, you know,
that was a good
like, we're always on the verge of getting like a massive headache, but we also always prevail like, yeah, okay. It was really interesting.
It was. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yes, Renee.
Sorry.
Hi. So if you are looking for language amending the law, is that what I heard you say?
That's right. It's a zoning text amendment.
So then how does it apply, and I don't know anything about zoning, just specifically to this property, and how would you know what I mean? Why would it not then apply universally if it's a...
Yes. So this particular zoning text article, which I can't remember the number, it's 81-645, I think, applies specifically to the theater subdistrict and basically describes a situation that is very specific within the theater subdistrict. And within the subdistrict, this is the only, and you know, there are only, you know, I don't know, like 16 Broadway theaters that are within the boundaries. And out of these 16 theaters that could be eligible for the use of this particular article, the Court Theater is the only one that falls in this category. The other ones are not over a split lot, and therefore, you know, this language would not apply.
Sam, did you have a question?
I actually had a comment, not a question.
Okay.
So the comment is just a couple of things, Leila. At first, all of that makes excellent sense. And obviously, this is a world of which I care deeply about. Two small things. One is that, and this just goes to your point about the desperation that the industry is in general, and to the Schuberts in particular. A couple things. First, the HEROES Act now has a provision in it in the House that is called Save Our Stages, and Save Our Stages will provide an enormous amount of support to the theatre owners in particular. The producers and promoters have sort of been an afterthought, but the theatre owners will do very well if that passes, and Chuck Schumer has been extremely supportive of it. The second part is to say that the Schuberts, and this is just a side note, have been particularly aggressive in collecting rent from people during the pandemic. And everything on the merits of the application, obviously legit, but there will be some lack of sympathy for the Schuberts, who have been sending rent bills to people upwards of 50, 60, 70,000, to the point where some shows have had to leave Schubert theatres simply because of their inability to pay the rent in the long term. I mean, that's an ongoing insurance battle and an ongoing push and pull between the producers and the theatre owners. But just so you know, the Schuberts have been quite aggressive in trying to eke out money from their tenants. So that was just for some background.
Yeah, and you know, quite frankly, they also have been aggressive with you know, materializing or you know, like increasing their ability to generate bonus FAR and to transfer this you know, all this density. They have been you know, hard at work on this application for many years. You know, this was not, you know, they didn't decide to do this deal specifically as a relief from, you know, the pandemic. The question that was in front of us was, how do we justify approving, you know, relaxing the split zone rule for this particular case? And, you know, we really struggled with that. And, you know, we feel that more broadly than really latching on to the merits of this particular applicant, we really looked at a cultural institution. For me personally, coming from a French background, being born in France and being a dual citizen, in my home country, cultural institutions are heavily subsidized. This is not the case with the Schubert. The Schubert is also, a tax-paying entity. They are a union company. So for all these reasons, we felt that, it was, a line of business, a cultural institution that is deserving of our support because they provide a public service. So, but, I hear you on the fact that they have been aggressive. This is, interesting to keep in mind, certainly important.
And on the merits of the application, I'm in 100% support. I 100% agree with everything that you just said. So no dissent, just no.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Anyone have any other comments or questions? Okay, then we will move to T&E.
So T&E received one presentation this month and took no board actions. So I don't believe we'll have anything on the agenda for the full board meeting.
Okay, is there any anything that needs reporting? Has anything transpired that we need to make people aware of?
I don't believe so. The presentation we received was an update on the ongoing and to be long ongoing repairs to the Grand Central train shed. Those will be underway for the next 10 years. We'll receive many updates on that process as it goes on, as Park Avenue gets periodically torn up and transformed, and then ultimately finalized with plans that don't even exist yet. So, I considered that an interim report, and I don't believe it's necessary to do a say a full board readout every time that occurs. We did not, as we thought coming out of last month that the DOT might return to us with a final proposal for the Fifth Avenue busway. They did not. As far as I know, they have not even had their final community advisory board meeting on that. So we expect that to be something that comes up in future months. And as was mentioned at our next cycle T&E meeting, we expect to talk about budget related issues so that we can hand those kind of principles and discussion statements to Bex, hopefully at the very beginning of the next cycle so they can be incorporated into your work, Renee. But particularly on topics like the Director of the Public Realm proposal and various enforcement proposals that T&E has talked about in the past and continues to discuss. But no, I don't believe there's anything that we need to report to the full board.
Okay, very good. What I would like to throw out there is going back to the Director of Public Realm issue and the importance that many of us feel that supporting that in some way, and I know all boards are thinking of this as well. I think we're in the forefront simply because MAS came to us first, and others have expressed an interest. But my feeling is that if we talk about it and we get it out, even though it's in the early stages now and we haven't brought it to Renee's committee yet, it's in the works, that it ought to be mentioned at the full board meeting, that it's being worked on and that it's being, that there is a process and that all the relevant committees. My question is, how's the best way to do that? Which committee would be the best to kind of talk about it? Would it be Renee? Would you feel comfortable, Renee, talking about it? Because we are doing it from a budgetary standpoint. That's how we're.
I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it not only from the budgetary perspective, but also in terms of our district needs statements and how, this is part of enforcement issues in a way that we've sought for so long. I know that Clayton is a better orator than I am, so I don't mean to put it on him, but we've spoken together with masks, and I don't know if he would like to introduce it, but
maybe what we could do is have both Clayton and Layla mention it, and then Renee pick up on it because it will be budget. Is that does that seem to make sense? At least I think the more we talk about it, the more we say about it, the more we're helping. I would hope. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that makes sense because I won't speak for Layla, but it was part of her report for this round of meetings anyway at land use. For our part, we heard it last month, but I'm happy to have it be just like an update as I did today for the committee report, just to mention that that we gave our input to Renee and that we'll be moving forward, and I'll kind of allude to hearing from, depending on how you want to order the committees in the agenda, allude that we'll be hearing more about it.
Layla?
I think it's a good idea. I was also going to say that, Clayton being a member of land use, maybe Clayton, you can just, give the report. You kind of started the process because you invited MAS to present to your committee first. So, if you want to just, give the sort of like follow up, MAS came to land use, everybody on land use thinks it's great. And then it's going to go to like BEX is going to be the recommending committee, so that this recommendation has teeth.
Now, EJ, did T&E have a discussion on this at all?
We didn't. Kind of came up very late in the cycle, and we didn't factor it into our agenda for this month.
I was just thinking if we have Clayton, and I think that's a good idea, Layla, is to have Clayton talk about it from the standpoint of the committees that are working on it. He can represent them, but I wanted to know if T&E itself had, and if they've not, then we won't say anything about T&E, but you will be discussing it at a further date. Would that work for you, Clayton?
Sure. So just to be clear, I would speak, but within the land use report. Is that right, Layla?
Whichever way makes most sense.
I think that makes the most sense.
What's that?
Well, I think that makes the most sense since it was where we heard it this month.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so how would that show on the agenda?
I think it would just be a committee report on this issue, and then Layla can just hand it over to me when that comes up.
Yeah,
okay. So that's listed under land use, but not under parks.
Right.
And you should mention that parks dealt with this, correct?
Well, I can. We did last month because ours was last cycle. So
yeah,
it's already been done. I'm happy to bring it up again. And also, by the way, I didn't actually say this, but I think it would be helpful to give a report from parks to full board just so that people know that ice skating is happening, and that the various updates we got from Bryant Park and Madison Square Park, I'd love to really briefly just mention those, I think. And
okay, and what's the heading you want for that? Bryant Park something?
Yeah, updates from Madison Square Park Conservancy and Bryant Park Corporation and Flatiron Bid. I'll keep it short and sweet, I promise.
Okay. No, that's okay. I shouldn't say this, but we have a short agenda, relatively short agenda. I know, don't say that. I know.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so.
Just wait, we'll talk for 2 hours about ice skating.
Right. So we will have a report. In addition to the resos, we're having a report. This is something, Marisa, that we have to discuss as to how it's going to show up on the agenda, and we also go through the order. So let's just start with the reports. So we'll have a report, Renee, on homelessness, what's been happening. Yes. Nick will give a brief report on our district and what's been happening with mostly outdoor eating, that kind of thing, and liquor licenses, Nick.
Okay.
That's 2 reports. And then Clayton, during land use, you will do a report on, what did we just talk about? Oh, of the public realm. And during parks, you'll have one on the 3 bids.
Yeah.
Does that take care of everything? Did I cover everything? I think so. Actually, it's almost every committee that had a reso has a report this month. Okay. How about order? Is there any reason? Let's see how it would flow.
I would say that the Schubert organization is a pretty large team with a very expensive attorney. So if you want to be kind to keep the legal bill slightly lower, I mean, I can't even imagine what it is at that point because they've had so many delays. It would be, I mean, they are going to come with, a large group of people who are going to attend. So if you want to be mindful of that, we may want to put them higher up on the agenda.
Well, we'll put it down as first. That's okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Fine.
So we'll do that first. Anybody else have any preferences or comments or reasons for moving up or down?
Beck should go last. Okay. You guys are mentioning all of the public realm information. Beck should probably go last if it's going to round up.
Okay.
To explain it.
Okay. And we'll do, let's see, you want to do parks after land use? We usually split landmarks and land use so that Layla's not overpowering, as she puts it. So what do you think? We'll do parks second?
Great.
Okay. And then landmarks will be third. Bex will be next, but the report from, well, do you want to do the report from PSQL in the middle or at the end? How about ending on a good note?
Whatever you think.
Okay. All right, let's put you in before Bex. We'll do that as number 4. Okay?
Okay.
Did you get that, Marisa?
Yes.
Okay. And we can go over the reports, tomorrow or whatever, just to be sure. So it's land use, parks, landmarks, PSQL, Bex. And reports within each of them. Okay? All right, is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up or talk about? Marisa, do you have any questions?
I have gobs of questions. I won't take up your time now.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, if there was anything that, you and I will talk definitely, we can talk about it tomorrow, but is there anything that anyone, who's here tonight that you need to speak with?
No, I mean, I have, I have questions for Renee on I was intrigued with the model framework for the small business relief. I just have,
sure,
questions about that. And
which you'll talk to her when you,
how you build that coalition within the, within the district and reach out to those folks.
Okay, great. So you and I will definitely speak tomorrow. And unless anyone else has anything to add to or comment on, we will adjourn. Is everybody okay with adjourning? All in favor?
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much. See you Thursday night.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Night.
Bye.